The first question to Mike Pence in tonight's vice presidential debate should not be about Donald Trump's tax avoidance. It should be, does Donald Trump believe in democratic elections in this country? It was perhaps the first sane moment of Trump's campaign. It appears it was his last. Within 96 hours, he had repudiated that moment, and that repudiation was the most craven and cowardly act, not just of this election, not just of this campaign, but by any presidential candidate since the Civil War. And it was lost in the shuffle. Something un-American, something unbelievable, something unconscionable, and it barely registered, buried amid the emotional debris of an unstable megalomaniac raining down upon the nation. The, quote, genius, unquote, who claimed poor people weren't paying enough taxes when he may have paid none for 18 years, a debate over non-existent sex tapes, controversy over who will tweet at 3 a.m., invocations of marital infidelity, cheating at charity, cheating at illegal trade with foreign nations, lost in the avalanche of stupidity and self-obsession and hypocrisy from this idiot Trump, missed in large part because there are a dozen things a day, any one of which should disqualify him from residency, let alone presidency. And yet he said it as glibly as if he were unhappy about a local zoning board decision. One of you will not win this election, debate moderator Lester Holt had said. Are you willing to accept the outcome as the will of the voters? And Trump could not simply answer it. He first had to wade through the involuntary egotism and spasmodic salesmanship with which he thinks he is cloaking the most insecure man of our times from public view. But finally, he said it, if she wins, I will absolutely support her. The first thing he has yet said that indicated that for a moment, just for a moment, he could put America ahead of his own ego, ahead of his own naked lust for power and control not just of a company or a television show where what he says is the rule, but of a nation in what he says is the law. And it was just for a moment. For then the impact of his failures at the debate hit him, and the pattern of whatever is wrong with him stopped waning and started waxing, and Trump took it back. Late last Friday, Trump told the New York Times he was rethinking his statement, rethinking whether or not to recognize the outcome of the presidential elections next month. We're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what happens. We're going to have to see. No presidential candidate, no political party, no leading government figure, no member of the military, no prominent commentator nor leader of any kind is permitted to raise such doubt. The sanctity of the election is the bedrock of this country, not the Constitution, not the Bill of Rights, not the military, not the Founding Fathers. There is only one response permissible to a question about the outcome of the election: acceptance. Merely to hesitate, even in the most trying of circumstances, in the midst of legal actions by both sides, in the immediate aftermath of as close a vote as could be imagined, is to change one's reputation forever, as it did that of Al Gore. To hesitate and be judged in the legal right still eternally alters a man's place in history, as it did that of George W. Bush. Richard Nixon, who craved the presidency more and more ominously than any other man who attained it, even he did not move to formally contest the razor-thin margin of 1960, and he certainly did not imply he would not, nor others should not, recognize it. Samuel Tilden denied the presidency in 1877 in a fateful bargain between the Democrats and Republicans that sanctified Jim Crow in this country for 80 years, still walked away, even at a time when the sitting president had quietly strengthened the military presence in Washington over rumors of armed revolt no matter who won the election, even as members of the U.S. military supposedly offered Tilden support to overturn that election by force. Tilden still obeyed. Abraham Lincoln, when he thought as late as September 1st, 1864, that he would lose re-election to General George McClellan and the Democrats, he was ready to leave office in the middle of the Civil War and honor the election. And Nixon and Gore and Hubert Humphrey in 1968 and Charles Evans Hughes in 1916 and Andrew Jackson in 1824 and all the other losers in all the other impossibly tight elections in our history not only never raised a serious doubt about the legitimacy of their own defeat after it happened, even when, as in Tilden's case, the flaming torch of civil war had been one side's recourse just 4 elections previously, but none of them ever would have dreamed in a dozen lifetimes to threaten not to recognize the election before the election happened. Trump, you are a child throwing matches at a gasoline can. You are pulling on the loose thread that every winner, every loser, every saint, every devil, and everyone else who has ever sought the presidency has known better than to touch. You are denying the fundament of democracy, betraying the history of your party, your people, your nation. Trump, you are fomenting revolution. There is no margin for error here because, no, Trump, we are not going to have to see. What we are going to do, we Americans, after that remark, I don't know what you are, what we are going to do is to honor the 57 elections that have gone before, even if they're hacked by the Russians, who you like far too much to make thinking men and women do anything but cringe. And if we don't like the outcome, we will act to remedy it within the Constitution. Opposition, protest, impeachment, even formal contestation, all of it legal, ethical, often necessary to the life of the nation. But nobody, Trump, who believes in democracy, Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, first says he will absolutely support the free elections that have kept us free for 240 years, and then within the week, because he doesn't like the polls, because he doesn't like the commentators, because he doesn't get his way, suddenly switches to, we're going to have to see. Trump, you are by yourself and as a representative of a brutal minority in this country, a threat to the very democracy that permits a savage like you to rise this far and get this close to the life and death power of the presidency. In the kind of nightmare country you invoke just by using the very phrase, we're going to have to see, your presidential aspirations would have ended long ago and not by legal means. But this is America. And this is democracy. And even when nearly 2.5 centuries worth of process and law and good fortune comes to a sudden end and the system spits up someone wholly unqualified for office, nowhere is it written that the rest of us can simply say, we're going to have to see if we will support the outcome of this election, even if it led to the cataclysmic nightmare of your administration, Trump. We would stay and fight you through the law, through the Constitution, and for those things the Founding Fathers risked their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor. For those things every soldier who ever wore this nation's colors fought. For those things every patriot willingly offered up all they knew and loved. And the first of those things, Trump, is the sanctity of the election. If you cannot now hold to a pledge to honor and accept its outcome for more than 96 hours, you are not a president, you are not a man of freedom, you are not an American. Get out of this race now, before you damage this democracy still further. Get out of this country now, before the cowards and fascists and bigots who have rallied around you for a year begin to believe that their subversion of democracy will be permitted here. You would fit in perfectly in the new government of the Philippines. You like Russia? I'm sure they can find people for you to dictate to and oppress there. Get out, Trump. For once in your life, recognize that something is not about you, nor is it about your opponent, nor the Democrats, nor the Republicans. It is about the essence of the United States of America. And you do not have the option to say, we're going to have to see. 240 years of patriots' blood and respect for law will not be sacrificed at the gold-plated altar of your sick and demented and morally treasonous ego. That's the closer. I'm Keith Olbermann. Watch this space.